Welcome, BBCers, to episode number 118 of the Broken by Concept podcast, the number one solo queue motivational podcast, where we break down solo queue topics. We talk about the process. We love John Wooden. We love David Goggins. We love Formula One and
Max Verstappen,
NFL and Tom Brady and Bruce Lee. And update Curtis on your solo queue, all right? Because we love solo queue. We should be talking about a solo queue more because leading by example is really important here.
Yep.
Last week, you did a TLDR of, you felt like you were going really stale in your RE. And this week, you wanted to experiment. You want to shock to your system, play a bunch of champions. You had lots of champ mastery on. I versed one of your random Galio games. You made the game very difficult, very annoying. I lost that game. Tell me how we're going, Curtis.
Yeah. Yeah. So to TLDR, the experiment was after my 110 games of RE, basically, to shock the system and not play RE, to kind of just get my free flow state back, to kind of get out of my rut that I was in. And I would say it's a pretty big success.
So 7 days in?
Yeah, about 7 days in, I'm feeling very refreshed. I'm feeling great. I haven't played a single game of RE. There were games that were good RE games, and I just said, no, I'm going to stick to the experiment. I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to play other things. I've played Vex, Galio, Lysandra, Cassio, Victor. Played a Xerath game. What else did I play? I played a Renekton mid game. Played a lot of stuff. But I've been really loving my Vex and my Galio at the moment. I'm getting back into those, but mainly Vex. Been loving the Vex, and I'm just feeling really, really. So my mantra right now is fun. That's my mantra right now. How do I have as most fun as I possibly can on the Rift? And it actually got me thinking. It might actually be my mantra for the MLA in 2023. So fun is a very interesting thing. In the past, I didn't think fun was overly important, but it really, really is. Right now, I am looking forward to my blocks a lot. Like I'm really excited to jump on and play, and I'm still thinking in lull states. Like I'm still playing with intensity, right? But I'm a lot more loose, and I'm a lot more trusting in my instincts and my game sense, and I'm letting my mind kind of run loose on the Rift, and I feel very confident. I feel very poised. And more importantly, I'm just having a blast. And so I would say mission success. Now I'm kind of conflicted though. Because what does this mean? What does this experiment mean? What are the findings, right? So I want to pose a question to you, Nathan. And this is, I imagine we're true scientists in the lab.
Yep.
And we got to pose a hypothesis or, something like that so we can test. So we've spoken a lot about champion mastery and the significance of champion mastery in the climb in your journey, because we know that you can't really get anywhere without it. I think that we've probably overemphasized champion mastery to the point where we've I guess forgotten about the fun element of things, or haven't emphasized it enough. And I think that what we need to do is find a balance between, how do we find a balance between champion mastery, playing champs that you know really well, but also
is different styles got to do with
having
it as well?
Diversity, because I think there are a lot of players out there that have also said this to me, that Curtis, I have fun when I play a few different champions. Now this gets very complicated, so let's get specific here. I believe there are certain champions in the game that require a lot more champion mastery than others.
I think that's definitely a fact.
So let's talk Kiana.
Yep.
And Yasuo, champions like that.
They're probably like some of the hardest.
They have a very high skill cap, right? They require you to know your limits very specifically. Mistakes are punished a lot harder on those champions. There's a lot less room for error. You got to know your damage output. You got to know how much damage you can take. You can't afford to kind of sit back and relax in lane. You got to go, right? Pick your windows, see windows. Now let's compare that with a Galio or a Vex. Now, obviously, champion mastery is equally important. You got to know your damage output and stuff like that. but they're a lot more forgiving. You can mess up a little bit and you can take a bit too much damage, but it's okay. I can miss a few CS, is not a big deal. I am still going to be Galio whether or not I've missed that 15 CS or not. I'm still going to be impactful in that team fight if I miss my Q or not. It really is not the end of the world. Sure, I will get punished at the very, very high levels of play. For the majority of the journey, comparing Galio to a Kiana is chalk and cheese. They're completely different things. So it leads me to believe that maybe, just maybe, we talking about having small champion pools. Maybe that's actually false.
Okay,
maybe we're wrong.
Here's the thing. Maybe it's small champ, so you have maybe 1 or 2 advanced champs, and then you play 4 easier champs in that role.
That's right.
And you just pick and choose and just have a bit more fun with them.
That's right. Okay, so there's a bunch of layers here that I want to get into. I've got a client in the MLA that I failed. I'm going to say straight up, I think I fucked him. And I feel terrible. And his name's Tom. And I feel like there was one obvious problem with his champion pool that I did not fix when I had the chance. And I completely overlooked it. And what it was is that he was playing 2 champions with three champions that had all differing styles.
And what were those champions?
He had Kiana.
So super advanced.
And then he had Oriana and he had LeBlanc.
Oriana, I'll say those are all different variations of advanced.
They're all but just think about the way they play the game.
Yeah.
Stylistically.
That's probably the craziest mix.
You know how hard that is to do that pool?
Yeah.
Imagine, and we did a review together, right, recently?
Yeah.
Because he says, this guy, he's been stuck at high diamond, D2, for a year or something. Ridiculous. Stuck.
Yep.
I think he's got 1,000 games or something. He's got a lot, more than 1,000. I think he's got 1,200 games or something, right? And we get into reviews and we get into the details and we did his review, right? I'm like, okay, well here, you just missed this window. You had to kind of use your ult in a different way here as Kiana. And here you missed a window to kill this person. And here you took the wrong element or whatever it might be. We're just getting very granular. Now, that's one game of his block. The next game, you're playing Oriana. Nothing that you've just
translates over.
Nothing that we've spoken about, or if you're reviewing that game, has anything to do with the next game. And I think this has ruined his confidence and his fundamental belief in his ability to improve. And now it's got to the point where I told him, okay, we're dropping Oriana. And you're only sticking to your Kiana.
That makes me feel really uncomfortable in that pool for some reason.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense, right? Yeah. I should have told him. I should have said it at the start. And now he's playing only Kiana, but now he's not really having success with Kiana. And I'm like, well, fuck me. Well,
all that time.
And I think now he's gone through that, what I went through with Ari, where he's played so much of Kiana, where he's lost that fun element and now he's kind of in a rut.
Yeah.
And now he's just in a corner. What do you do? Do you drop Kiana, but then you have no champ mastery anymore? Then what do you do?
You go back to learning the game. I think you got to strip everything away.
You got to just say, I've wasted a year.
Yeah.
And which is
just the reality.
That's just the reality, and that's on me. And I don't blame him if he left the MLA. I fucked up, right? It's
big time, dude.
It makes sense to leave the MLA. He's
one of those unfortunate rats in our lab that just we give him we test something, we give him the disease and we try and cure it, but that fails and then he's learning.
Yes, he's sacrificed for the greater good essentially. That's right. He's gonna the learnings that I've got from Tom.
We should have of all the clients we've failed this and then just have all the learnings.
There's be a graveyard at the top, we've got Psycho and Tom and Kari, you've got all these people up there that we've just failed. Anyway, so there's one element there, Nathan, to the champ pool where we have stylistic differences in the champions. An equivalent in the jungle might be you've got Lee Sin and then you've got Shyvana or something like that, or you've got Karthus or Evelyn, and then you've got Shaco. You've got 2 completely different styles that the mindset is just so different. You're heading into a game of Shaco, you're thinking very different as you're thinking as Karthus. You've got a different mentality, right? Both the way you play fights and the way you're thinking about the game. But then I think there's also the actual raw skill cap of the champion, like you said, where there are champions in the game that have a very high skill cap, like the Kiana, like the Yasuo. but you can't have too many of them in your pool.
Yeah.
I had a client recently that told me he had Zed and Yone, and he said it's too much for him.
Yeah.
He can't actually improve at both of them at the same time. So he's had to make a choice between one of them and then have a simple AP pick. So he decided to drop, I believe, Zed, stick to Yone, and then have an easy AP pick like a Kassadin. Something that's like got a simple identity.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, that's a great idea. And that got me thinking, maybe champ pools are a lot more sophisticated than we gave it credit for. Because I, right now, am playing at 4 or 5 champs. I could probably play 6, 7 champs at this level, but not super hard ones. I could probably only play, maybe 1 or 2 hard ones.
So which ones, what are the advanced champs in your pool?
I feel like I don't even really have many advanced ones.
you have a
People
pretty
think
simple
Casio
pool.
is advanced, but for me, I've played Casio for legit 8 years.
Yeah,
so
but
it
I would
doesn't
say
count.
that Casio is advanced. That's where you've invested the champ.
That's my
mastery
one
on.
champ.
Yeah.
So Casio, Vex, simple. I mean,
Vex is
Victor's
simple.
really simple. Galio, simple. I play Lysandra, simple.
I think Galio and Lysandra have clear champ identities. Victor, I think, is in the advanced category.
You reckon as
Yes.
well? So they're my 2 advanced Casio, Victor.
Those you've invested.
And so the
time
Vex,
into.
Galio lists are all very simple.
Yeah, I think that's the ultimate. So again, you've just got 2 advanced
2
champs
advanced.
and then 3 very simple identity
Right,
champs.
right.
I think you've nailed it.
Right. Maybe that's the case. But
And then
again,
you've also got the Renekton in there as well. That's your AD pick. That's your 6th champ.
Well,
and that's
yeah.
pretty simple identity
It's
as well.
pretty
isn't
simple
it?
identity as well, ease of execution. So, at the end of the day, I think that there is something. Okay, let me rephrase this. The human mind is capable of a lot more than I gave it credit for in terms of intuition and game sense. There is a bunch of knowledge up here that is stored that we don't have access to that just gets reignited when you get into that game on the Rift with the champ that you've played a lot of.
Yeah, because it's just crazy. Like I guess we must be the whole champ mastery. You know how we say that taking breaks from the game and stuff like that. Can be playing. How is it possible that you haven't played Galio?
Yeah.
For 7, 8 months, maybe the whole
Probably
year,
more, a year.
and then you play a game versus me, a full basically challenger lobby, and you completely just carry the game.
Yeah, and it's
How's that possible?
Mental Zach freed up, just dominating.
How's that possible?
Same thing with my Vex. Don't know. This is what I'm saying. It's pure muscle memory. So this is the thing, and I think with those champions, it's more about I understand the mindset of that champion. So if I understand the mindset and I have the hands, it's just like putting the things together, And so it leads me to a point where during this experiment, I've understood a lot more about the importance of free flow and the importance of game sense and intuition. And then now it's actually leading to me with my coaching where one of my big things with my coaching is all I'm trying to do with a lot of my clients is speed up the improvement of their game sense. That's what I'm trying to do.
Game sense is a word that I've used a lot this year. Game sense is incredibly important. It's that because you can't think and that
You can't think.
You don't have time to.
You
think in
only
League of
can think in
Legends.
LoL states. Thinking is very important in LoL states.
Yep.
That's win con, all that stuff. You got to think, but.
Critical moments in the game, it's where game sense kicks in.
That's
that
where game
team
sense-
fight,
that's right.
That instantly know to go to this lane, even though you don't really see anything, you just feel something's going to happen
You're
there.
drawn there.
Yeah,
And I think, but the way you develop game sense is good quality reviews. It's a combination.
chipping away, just looking at lots of situation reviewing.
Yes,
your
putting yourself in a
games.
lot of different situations.
Lots of
And
patience.
now again, this is what I talk about. I mean, okay, so I spoke about this on the podcast where I used to have a 3-stage model, right? The micro, the macro, and the psychology. Now it's like a 4-stage where you have the micro, the macro, then the champ identity and understanding of your role and understanding the mindset of a champion, then the psychology and your relationship with the game. That third one there, that one was the mindset and understanding how to think as your champion. That is the key to developing and speeding up the process of developing good quality game sense. Because so what I've realized, I'm just comparing my journeys with other champs, with Vex, right? I clicked with that champ from day dot. When I remember when it came out and I played it, I had always been very good at that champion just because I understood how to think as Vex. It was just so intuitive to me. I clicked with the identity and I could see myself when I'm playing Vex. I know what I got to do and why. It's crystal clear. It's not even about the mechanics. It's it's just crystal clear what I got to do. There are other champs that I play that
Ari just never became crystal clear.
I can make it work eventually with putting a lot of time, a lot of effort, but the identity never really I don't ever see myself as one with Ari. It's always a detachment there. I can't ever be one with Ari. It's just not my personality. I don't know what it is. Now I can play that champ to a very high level, but there's that Vex for me, and that Cassia, and that Gal. There's just that TF, my Fizz. These champs in the past that I've clicked with. There's an X factor that I can't replicate on Ari. There's an X factor there, and I think that's why it's important when you're developing and then my skirmishing on those champs are way better. My skirmish on Vex and all these champs is way, way better because I know how to think as those champions. So when a lot of my reviews nowadays, I always talk about, so how are you thinking here? Like, what's in your mind? What are you prioritizing? Where are you directing your attention? That's where I can get into the meat of things. Because if they say, oh, I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking about that, and I can say, oh, you're actually thinking in the completely wrong way with how you should be thinking.
Yeah, like I have a model. I mean, let's say you're a jungler, right? You're really only doing a couple of things when you go into a lane, right? You're either going to see the situation as a dive. You're either going to counter gank, you're either going to gank, or you're just going to be there to help the wave.
Yep.
Like those are probably like the 4 key things.
Okay.
Or protect the dive, I guess. Protect the dive,
Okay.
5 things.
Okay.
And then it's really interesting to see if they see this as a gank, these are the factors why it's actually not even a gank. If you're thinking of it like this way, you're missing huge pieces of information in your gameplay here.
That's why that's such an important question. How are you thinking here? What are you thinking of here?
Which category did you choose?
Yeah, which did you pick?
Did you this as a gank? There's no gank to be done. It has to be a counter gank because the enemy jungler's here.
Yep, I love that. That's such a great way of like breaking it down. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, something I've been really exploring recently is the mindset of a carry. And I've been trying to get this across with Victor clients, right? I need an analogy for this, and I need your help with this. I'm lost, okay?
Right, I got to find a mid analogy. Here we go.
So there are games. So this is where jungle and mid kind of differ, where, you know, we talk about how as jungle, you always know what you got to do. Like there's always something you can do.
Yeah.
Right? It's like I can.
Most of the time.
Well, yeah, most of the time, right? Like you're doing something actively proactive most of the time. And by proactive, I mean, it could be defending a dive. That's still proactive, right? Yeah. Whereas sometimes if I'm playing Victor, you know, I literally can't do anything sometimes. Like all I can do is sit here and farm, not die, maybe get a bit of poke off with my E. That's it. Like I can't roam. I can't get tower plates. I can't get raptors. I can't ward. I don't have a ward. I can't do anything.
All right. How long do those periods last?
Well, in certain games, if I'm versing high threat junglers and my team's behind, sometimes it's going to last for 10 minutes.
Crazy. Okay.
Like I'm going to be sitting and I said, there's nothing you can do here.
Yeah.
You are purely reactive to the game.
Yeah. And the game would be even or
these are games where generally even or behind.
Yeah.
Usually behind.
Because for jungle, I'll just think about my reviews when I say there's nothing to do right now.
Or even.
It's only about when your laners have reset.
But that's what I'm saying. Differences.
But that's only like a 30-second.
That's very different.
And then you can always
jungle. You can always do
push.
Something.
Like you can hover there
because you're not glued to a lane. Though. That's the thing.
You can
jungle,
create pressure somewhere.
Yeah, you can go somewhere.
Yeah.
But mid, if I'm versing, say I'm Victor in a game, right? I'm versing a Zac, and I'm versing, and my bot lane's losing, and I'm playing Victor, and I can't do much in the 1v1, and my junglers are farming, and I can't move up in the lane, right? I'll just die to a Zac. I have no vision. My jungler's not getting vision for me. My support's getting shoved in. There's nothing I can do here, right? So what I say to these clients, I say, guys, you need right now, this game, you've got losing sides. This game is on you. You got to sit here, and your mindset has to be this. You got to farm your ass off. You got to be a vacuum.
10 CS a minute.
And you just got to put yourself in a position to potentially carry. Like that's like the mindset. It's like, some people get it. They get that there is nothing to do, and the best decision is to simply farm and not die and play off power spikes. But that is way easier said than done.
It is.
Because your mindset now needs to be thinking, okay,
carry.
Protect myself at all times.
Yeah.
I need to identify every little bit of farm I can get. And I need to say no to plays. I need to be really like selfish and greedy. And I need to just be it's like proactively reactive. And until, I said, well, Chris, how am I going to win? I said, I don't know. I win a lot of these Victor games where I win. I don't know how I'm going to win. I'm just going to be a brick wall. I'm going to be
You're sort of like not letting the enemy team win in a way.
Yeah, I'm winning by denying their win condition. I'm winning by lowering their options. That's how I'm winning.
Yep.
And then before you know it, you get to 2 items as Victor, and you're like 190 CS by 20 minutes. And then a skirmish randomly breaks out, someone overextends, boom, you get a pick, a shutdown, and then you start just dominating team fights. You're just out of control. But how do you... That's a mindset of like... I'm trying to get this mindset of a carryover, and usually I have an analogy. You know, we talk about Vex and like the shark mindset and all this stuff. But what's an analogy for that? Like, what do I even say? And it's like a feeling that it's like you have to trust blindly that you can sit here and farm and potentially win this game.
Here's one maybe. Box in. You're waiting for your opponent to gas. I think of Muhammad Ali, his strategy against
like
people
Floyd
like
Mayweather
Foreman
and
stuff like that. Yeah, Floyd Mayweather. They're just never getting
just
hit.
block,
never
hits.
getting hit. You know, throwing obviously some punches here and there.
Yep.
But their ideal strategy is playing the long run, small wins mindset. And letting them gas. There's nothing clearly fancy or sexy about their
But
play.
you've got to be willing to take that window if they give you that window. Like if they get sloppy, then you're going to still take that window.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
I think actually Floyd Mayweather's career is perfect for that.
Yeah, Floyd
About
Mayweather.
small wins, nothing sexy.
Yeah, maybe I've got to make a
Wait for it to
video
gas.
on that and like use an example of like show a Floyd Mayweather boxing match.
Yeah.
And just show that this is the mindset. Like okay, he's still taking opportunities, but he's avoiding shots, not taking damage, scaling in a way. And
I think the Conor McGregor fight's perfect for that.
The Floyd Mayweather's Conor McGregor boxing match, yeah. Like he just took a lot. He just tried to gas him out in rounds 1 and 2 and stuff, right? Yeah. Because you don't. But the only difference in that one is that you kind of know how he's going to win, but in league, sometimes you don't know how you're going to win. That's why it's a little bit less clear. But the theory, the analogy does make sense. Yeah, I like it. That's a really, really good one.
That's my crack.
Yeah, it's really good. I like it. I can use that. But it's such an awkward thing to get across, isn't it? It's like how tough that is mentally to believe that you can do that. You got to have the confidence to be like, okay, guys.
The hardest thing there is the confidence to not compensate and call off those plays that your team's making. And then there's the times where, you know, it might be clear. It's like, oh, I reckon I maybe could go to this fight. And you've just got to be decisive. You just got to fucking go there and just.
But I'm assuming you've versed players in solo queue that have done that to you, where they just like you sit there silently farming, and then you make one mistake, and then they just capitalize, and then they just take over the game. Like you see it with Kale players as well and stuff like Kassadin players, Kale players. Yeah, that's what you got to be. Some not all games, but some games. That's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. So yeah, tying back to the initial experiment, that's what it's made me realize. Okay, there's the intuition, the game sense, it's beautiful. Something that we need to really learn more about, Nathan. This is something I think through the Soul 2 and the MLA and the BBC, we're really trying to understand over time what leads to high performance. What is the brain capable of? And I'm not picking, again, to be really clear, to reiterate this, I wasn't picking random champions. These are champions that I've played a lot of over my past 12 years of playing the game, right? These are champions I have had mastery on in the past. They're just not actively in my pool. And this is actually what leads me to believe to be the best player you could possibly be, it actually is good to rotate your pool over time. So let's say, Nathan, you've got your pool of like Rek'Sai, Volibear. What are you playing? Rek'Sai,
Volibear, Jarvan, and I'm throwing in Elise here and there.
Okay.
And then Nunu I can also whip out.
Okay, and then so you've got this is a great example. So in the past seasons, you actually played a lot of Olaf, and you played a lot of Nunu, and you went through an E phase.
Well.
You went through an Hecarim phase. You went through an E phase. These phases that you go through, they're not wasted time.
No.
They actually do two things. They give you a very particular view of the game. They actually help you get better at beating those champions next time you verse them because you know exactly what they want. You know how they're thinking. But then you can also it gives you I guess a different way to view the game when you play those other champions. So now what happens in the future? So let's say next season, Nathan. let's say for whatever reason you stop playing Jarvan, you stop playing Volley, and maybe you just keep Rek'Sai, and maybe you add in Eve, you add back in Olaf, and maybe you add in a new champion. Maybe you add in like Kayn or something, right? Then that's another element of the game that you'll like play around with, and you might not keep it in your pool forever, but that period of time that you played it, you've got muscle memory there. And then you might revisit
it's like stored. It's like
stored in there.
Activate it. It's like
That's
your
right.
Galio example.
And then the more years you play, you rotate, you go through, you rotate. You're sharpening your game sense. You're sharpening your intuition, smoothing the edges.
You're building your portfolio.
Yes, you're building your portfolio. And then every year, every season, you're actually getting smarter. You can foresee more things. But remember, when you're climbing, like I still think that's where we got to really figure out. There are probably players who have played the game for 8 years. They might be able to have a more expansive pool. They might actually be able to play 6 champs at a time.
So let's say you're a newer player learning the game. You come in, follow the mantra, everything. You play, you master. You spend like a couple of months on 2-3 champs.
Yes, 2 champs. Like that's
2 champs. Yeah, 2 champs, and then you rotate 2 new champs and work on that for 8 months.
Or you might just keep one of the ones you kept in there. Maybe keep one of them and then add another one in.
Slowly building your portfolio.
Slowly building your knowledge over the game. That's right.
Instead of just playing 2-3 champs for years.
That's right. But you still got to, at the start when you're first climbing, you got to find your niche. You got to find what you're good at. You got to create a player identity.
Yeah.
And that's where I think Tom really messed up and I messed him up. Like you can't do Orianna and Kiana because what is your player identity? Yeah. What are the strengths that you're trying to develop in your arsenal, you know? Yeah.
You've got like Kiana that's like looking to get picks and play off the ult. Orianna, want to scale sort of team fight, and the LeBlanc about pressuring,
facilitating.
Yeah,
it's an overwhelming.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, and I'm sure that, look, with Tom there were other issues as well, like stage 3 issues, right?
Yeah,
stage 4, whatever, with friendship groups and expectations and tilts and
external factors.
There's all that stuff as well, which didn't, obviously added fuel to the fire. So yeah, so that's kind of my findings and
very interesting.
I'm still going along with it. And I'm sorry, in terms of raw LP, I think over that period of time, that week, I climbed probably maybe, I don't know, 100 LP-ish or something like that. 100 and something.
All right, moving on here. Speaking of game sense and intuition, here's an interesting observation I found in my review sessions this week. I want to get your thoughts on this from what you've seen. This was specifically more so in like my gold platinum reviews, right? And I was paying attention to the enemy top laner, or I think it was his top laner, was putting out insane pressure in the game just from just split pushing and just like, like that mindset of like, screw my team, I'm just going to pressure, right? And what I saw, I was like, like he clearly isn't really doing this potentially, like intentionally. Like it seems pretty obvious he's like doesn't want to go to because I was looking at the situation, I'm like, I don't know why the top laner's not here for Baron. Like he is so far ahead, you guys could just get it, but he's like still trying to pressure. And
so this guy was on his team?
Yeah, I think it was on his team, yeah. And he was just straight up ignoring everything. And then he was putting out so much pressure on the map and like forcing the enemy. I was thinking, is top lane really good for understanding how to close out games and understanding pressure and understanding, like flow of the game and thinking about how the team reacts? Because think about all the other roles really, right? Then like, top laners sometimes have a very clear identity of that whole split push. You have like the Jackson. That's sort of what you learn sort of when you start with. But the rest of those, especially jungle, you're sort of just like fighting. And the problem with a lot of my gold clients, platinum, they're just taking random fights and we're not fighting over any objective. And we don't really understand what creating pressure feels like or looks like. But top laners, for some reason, from what I've seen in these reviews this week, I don't know if they're doing it intentionally or not, but they're creating the game to what they want to do in a way, and everyone's reacting to them. And I was like, I wonder, they actually might be learning the game quicker than every other role because of that split push element. What do you think about this, Curtis?
It's interesting you say that. In a way, they kind of do dictate the way a map plays out, don't they? Like when you think of mid-game,
Mid-game stuff.
a lot
Think about
of
how to actually, because that's where you actually win games of League of Legends.
Yeah.
And just understand, I feel like you gain so much intuition. There'll always be these things that they wouldn't be thinking about, but they'll know what it feels like because they were the one that split pushing, and they know what it feels like for people to be coming to them and reacting to them. And they wouldn't realize that the enemy team can never close out the game because they keep having to react because he's got so much pressure in the lane. You don't really know what that feels like unless you do it or you're thinking about that.
Yeah. As a top laner, it's interesting. Kind of in the early game, you're weak and you're kind of left on an island and you're really irrelevant. But then you kind of scale into mid game, don't you? Like as a role. Like I think top lane as a role scales into mid game, doesn't it? Mid to late game. Yeah, I never really thought of it like that, but you're probably right. I would say you would probably know what pressure can do for you in the map more so than any other role.
That's a perfect way of want to. They understand. They're learning about pressure.
They really understand.
And they know
pressure,
what it feels like. Again, they might not be able to understand it and explain it, but
from a feeling, the intuition would be really good.
Intuition would be built up.
They know that if they're pushing, like, okay, they would know intuitively what's going to happen. Like,
because they don't win games through kills; they win games through pressure,
through tower. Because that's actually the narrative that's pushed, by the way, just through coaching and just content creation online. It's always split push. That's your way to carry. Play Fiora, play Jax, play Tryndamere, and just split push your way to win. In a way, it actually is.
It's very effective.
It's very effective if you're a top laner. If you play Yorick and all that, it's actually a very easy way to climb. Really, if you're a top laner, makes sense.
And it's really important to, like, the huge part, especially when I move more onto my higher elo clients, it's not, I don't care about kills anymore and random fights. It's about the pressure you're putting on the map around that objective. You know, you could fight 2 minutes before Dragon, doesn't mean anything. What does it mean? You know, everyone burns ult. It's like, oh, wow, we got some gold. They traded some kills. But the top laners, like, just chipping at it and so many games under their belts.
Yeah. I think that every role only, like, they can't learn the game holistically. Like, every role only learns a very particular thing about the game. Right? Junglers learn a very particular thing about the game. Mid laners learn a very particular... Like, I think mid's probably the most holistic. Like, you probably have to learn the most about every aspect.
Can also... There could be a chance with the split pushing
thing. That's right. There's a lot of echo mids
and
like a lot of champions mid that split push. Yeah, that's right. So I said mid is that you're probably the more jack of all trades. Like, you learn a lot. But every role kind of specializes. Like, AD carry specializes the most on, like, the micro element of the game, probably. Like,
and knowing how to do damage.
Knowing how to team fighting. Knowing how to just do damage in a team fight.
Spacing mechanics.
And jungle's understanding, like, I would say jungle as well is... You actually do have to understand pressure, but in a different way.
Yeah, well, that's the thing that I find hard to teach for junglers. Because junglers just, you know, from especially my gold and platinum clients, they just see, I need to get kills to get towers and get objectives.
You know, one thing I think what thing's really difficult to teach as a jungler, I'm assuming so, is fog of war.
Absolutely, yes.
Have you found that?
Yep, absolutely. Because it's very, a really important mindset I try and get it is you gotta think about how the enemy team is seeing the map, but people don't view it through that lens. It's about me, what I'm doing.
It's about you, but it's actually about the laners.
Yeah, it's about the laners.
It's about the laners. Like, as a jungler, you actually need to get out of your own head and think, okay, what would it feel like if I were that Aurelia or I was that Orianna? Or
very hard to teach.
That's hard to teach. That's why, again, we said this trillion times on the podcast. It actually makes more sense to play a lane and then play jungle. You'd be a better jungler.
Yes.
Because you would understand how it feels. Like, dude, like Rek'Sai, who's missing on the map,
is the scariest.
Is thing. Just so, and as a mid laner specifically, gives me PTSD.
Yeah,
because I don't know where they're going to come from. No. They could come over my Raptors. They could go here and there.
Same with Shaco, stuff like that.
Shaco, that's why my mental block with Shaco and Zax and stuff like that. You know, Evelyn. I feel like it would be very difficult to play Evelyn well, in my opinion. Like, to a very high level if you didn't play a lane, like a mobile laner. Like, I feel like vice versa. I think a lot of laners don't really understand how they can utilize junglers like that.
Yeah, but like pretending that they're there to get like a wave in or something like that.
Or just asking them to hover, dude. Like, I've got many clients and I've said this exact learning. I'm like, you have a Rengar or you have a Eve? Go to the side lane and give them an option. Don't A-ram with an Eve and a Rengar.
that's so useless.
Just go to the side. I literally reviewed a game.
Spam ping. They will come, dude. They will come. If you say help, I think generally they'll come. Because
yeah, they will. They have to because that's what Eve has to do, right?
Identity. You don't want to.
I literally had a game, ruined this game of a diamond player, a Yone player.
Yeah.
And I said he had a Fed Eve on his team. I think the Eve was 4-0. And the enemy comp was a full melee comp. It was like Aurelia, they were versing a Yasuo mid. It was just like a full melee comp. It was even a Nyla, I think, on the enemy team. And I said, this game is over. There's actually no way you can lose this game. The game is unplayable for the enemy team right now. Eve and Yasuo, they cannot play the game as long as Evelyn doesn't show. What happens? He goes into the site. The Yasuo was playing as if Eve was there. Eve wasn't there for ages. And then as soon as the 1 second that the Yasuo pushed up and Evelyn actually just came, he just popped, just died, just instantly. And both sides had to play like that. Both sides had to play as if the Evelyn was there. And as soon as she went to one side, she could just kill whoever it was anyway. So Evelyn, in my opinion, is one of those champions that if you get ahead in the early game, in a good Evelyn game, it's...
Especially if they get Magi's, you're basically...
It's basically over, right? Like, I think Evelyn is just one of those champions you just can't...
Especially is Evelyn, if you got like 2 winning lanes, like the game's very easy because you're not getting invaded.
I will, I have a real pet peeve with Evelyn, by the way. I think Eve, again, I'm not a jungler, but I think Eve would have to be one of the best solo queue champs in the game.
Absolutely.
If you want, I think if you taught someone jungle through Eve and only Eve, I don't see how you couldn't get them to diamond in a pretty short period of time just with Eve fundamentals. Like that champion, if you can just understand to like just get to 6 and understand how to do combos and understand at a basic level how laners think, there is very little counterplay because no one knows how to play versus Evelyn post 6. How does a laner help? It's not up to the laner. It's up to the enemy jungler. So the game is in the enemy jungler's hand when you're versing Evelyn, isn't it? Because this is what people always say, what's the counterplay to Evelyn? And I say, well, if your jungler doesn't invade and get the Evelyn behind early, you just gotta play around your jungler and take 2v2s. And if your jungler doesn't hover you, then you just gotta send under your tower. That's literally what you gotta do if you're playing in a mobile champion.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that Eve
is she not one of the best solo queue champs in the game?
Yeah. If I was to, let's say I made a new account, I need to rank up really fast. You could comfortably, very easily do it with Eve. Eve, I would say Karthus as well. I mean, I personally love versing Eve because I know how to play.
That's how you know though. But that's a very particular skill set, right? And there's not many people who know that.
No. Yeah, no. Yeah, no, there's definitely champs that snowball out of control. Yeah.
It's just the kit, just the dynamic of the kit.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, that's a really good point with top lane. I do agree.
So my statement is that I feel that top laners intuitively learn about pressure and how to actually kill the Nexus better than any other role.
Yeah. That's all you should be thinking about in a way, isn't it?
Yeah.
Pressure. How do I shove this side lane out as deep as I possibly can?
Winning games without actually getting kills is the most important skill in League of Legends.
Nathan.
Here we go.
There is a very big difference between an okay decision and a great decision. And the reason I bring this up is I've had a client recently. I think it was Diamond. I believe Diamond off the top of my head. And we got into this review, and this was I'm gonna proceed to explain his mindset. All right, we get Dragon, but they get Rift. Yeah, all right. We go bot, get a kill, but they go top. Yeah, that's fine.
They say they get a kill top.
Yeah,
you trade just multiple ones.
Yep. We went 3 for 3 in this team fight. Yeah. That's okay. We overstayed on the map, but we got 2 extra towers. Yeah, that's fine. There's clients out there, this client specifically, that as long as they get something, they're okay with it. they find a way to justify the decisions that they're making by looking at the upside. And as long as it's not an absolute disastrous play and there was some upside.
Okay, so then they're not going to ask the critical question is what could have been a way better decision?
What's a better
net
decision?
me more gold and experience or something like that.
Because League,
Yes.
the learning and becoming a better player is you can't be okay with a mediocre decision. Like you got to be curious, extremely curious to find what the best decision is in this moment.
That's how I improve with the game. That's my coaching. Everything that I do in the game is I'm looking for what's the best, most optimal play, what's the most experience. That's what my Rek'Sai guide, the gank theory, is all about.
Yes.
If you guys want to know exactly this, the good between okay and great decisions. Okay decisions was on the scale on the gank theory. There's four parts of the scale. Is the fourth one, and the number one is what you're looking for the most. That's a great decision. I literally broke that down.
I love that. And if you only make okay decisions, you can still win the game in a sloppy way, but you're not going to improve if you don't try and get into the review and be, how can this be a great,
That's right.
What does a great decision look like here instead?
Yeah.
And because we went into the review and I said, dude, okay, this was just an average game. You made a bunch of average sloppy decisions. That's what I said. You're usually a very sloppy player. You're just sloppy around the edges. Like you're just missing just a lot of missed opportunities and you could be making way better decisions. But I said, look, I can sit here and I can tell you what these are, but as soon as I piss off, you're not going to
try and find these great decisions.
It won't you're not going to get better.
Yeah.
I said straight up, you're not going to get better unless you change your mentality towards your reviews to be insanely
I guess
curious.
It's standards, right? It's like you're increasing your standards. But like instead of being like, oh, I got a kill here and there, it's like the standard is how can I just dominate this, like get the best in this game.
If you go bot, you roam and you get a kill and you don't think about the consequences of your actions, then you're missing out because you might go get that kill bot, but then the enemy laner then goes top and they trade sides of the map and get top kill.
I saw a game where a mid laner roamed to, I think it was something like a Yone versus Cassidy mid. The Yone on his team roamed to bot. They got like 2 kills bot, but the enemy Cassidy got like 3 plates mid. And then like, cause we were like, wait, how does mid have 1 plate against a Cassidy and they're winning through mid? Stuff like that.
That's right.
Yeah.
So on paper, it's like, but it's not. And my problem, it's not even the decision. It's the mindset in the review.
Yeah. In the review, the actual to learning the game.
To learning the game.
Yeah, very important.
Like if you want to push and you want to climb, don't be okay with just don't be content with
raise
okay.
your standards.
Yes, raise your standards. Try and find the best solution. What's the best solution? It's just like when you're cooking, right? Like you can have a okay steak or you can have an excellent steak.
You cook it just for a little bit more, let it rest.
A little bit more care, a little bit more intention, a little bit more effort.
This is true.
Right?
Yeah.
And it makes the difference.
The little things.
Little things make the difference. It's actually true. And so, a bit of a public service announcement. It's just a mentality towards the review.
Yeah.
And what I always say is, that period of time where you're trying to find that solution, that's where you will learn the most about the game. It's not even the learning itself. It's the process to discovering that solution. That is where you're like,
you get good at the game.
That's where you get good at the game. Because you're like, okay, here, all right, let's break this one down. And then you're like, oh, interesting. That's how that person would have thought. And one of the big things I've been into, Nathan, is I always tell my clients, when you get ganked, put yourself in the jungler's shoes. So I remember I did a review recently where he died to the fiddle. I said, if you're the fiddle of this game, why would you not come mid? He's not going to go top. You're the one with he saw you blow flash in that previous skirmish. You have no vision on top side. And we saw him path top side. If he's not going to go top, he has to go mid.
That's right.
And like sometimes when you put yourself in the shoes of the enemy,
it's very obvious.
It's obvious, but also that's the learning there.
That's
like,
the learning, yeah.
Great. Like now I know how that fiddles is going to think there. That's where you get really good learning.
Yes.
And that's what you've done with your understanding laners. If I was them, how would I be thinking? That's how you get great at jungle as well.
Yeah.
Specifically putting yourself in the mind of the laner.
Yep. And it's all about waves. If you want to learn about okay and great decisions, go onto YouTube right now, guys, for a jungler. Type in Nathan Mott Rek'Sai guide. Go to the timestamps. Go to Gank Theory. It goes for 40 minutes. Watch that. You'll be a genius at jungle.
I love it. Yeah, last thing I do want to talk about here was a silver client. So I've got a silver client from OS, and I coach him because he's from OS, and he's like silver. He's like high silver.
Yep.
So I make an exception for him, and I do something sneaky, and I just say he's gold 4 in my
When you upload it to the
I just say
thing.
gold 4 because I just don't have any silver reviews.
Yeah.
Anyway, and he is a fascinating client where, again, clients he's not a failed client. Like, we're just not getting
putting up on the
he's not in the graveyard yet. But he's not getting the results he's looking for.
Yeah.
And he's come in and we've made massive changes. Like, and he's actually doing pretty well. And he's really understood. He plays only Vigar, and we understand Vigar's identity now. He understands how to think. Like, he knows how to do his combos better. Use Everfrost. Like, he's improved many of these aspects, but he's still not making that jump from silver 2 to gold 4. And then I've set him learning objectives in the past to focus on things like whether it's like very specific basic things like wave management, like very basic wave management, very basic warding, whatever it might be, right? And we did this review, and he just made the same mistake that, like he said, Curtis, I've worked on this before. I worked on this for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I worked on this and I wasn't making this mistake anymore, but now I'm making it again. So what was happening with him is that he would focus on one thing, he would get good at that one thing, and then he would swap learning objectives, go to this other thing, but then he would forget the other thing and just make the same mistakes over and over again. And now, he's like lost confidence in the process because he's like, well, I'm not going anywhere. I'm just making the same mistakes over and over again. And what we realized with silver clients specifically is,
would you're grouping gold 4 players?
probably get your gold, like a lot of gold players as well, is that you actually need to extremely laser focus on one aspect of the game only for a very extended period of time until it's like you can't not do it. Because I said, hey man, do you understand wave management? He said, yeah. So I get into the thing, right? And I said, okay, what's happening with the wave here? He couldn't really say. Okay, if you want to get a reset, what are you going to do? Why are you slow building this? You should be hard shoving. He doesn't understand basic wave management. He might have thought he did because maybe he had in the past, but he didn't really get it.
I understand it, yeah.
So if you can't get it when you're not thinking, then you don't know it well enough when it comes to fundamentals specifically. So what I realized with him is that we went too fast. Because he would say, you get clients who lie to you and they say, oh yeah, they trick you, right? They say they know it, but in reality they don't. No. They don't know it. They think they know it, but they don't. When probed, they don't. They might know it in that one game, but they don't know it in every single game. So now when it comes to fundamentals with like wave management, there's no such thing as half knowing it. You either know how the waves goddamn work or you don't. You either know the alphabet or you don't. That's it. So my learning with him and what I realized from a coaching perspective is that you got to really stay on learning objectives when it comes to fundamentals for a long time. Weeks, maybe like a month.
Yeah, months.
Straight.
Yeah, my gold clients, jungle tracking, bam, we're going to be working on this for months. Don't care until you get it perfect.
It's got to be perfect.
Yes.
Because you can't move on. Because you're just going to make the same mistakes. At least now, if he's done that for a month, at least now we definitely know what not the problem is. Like, at least we know it's not wave management.
Yeah.
At least we've got that out of the way.
It's such a good foundation as well, those type of, like the really core learning objectives for the game.
Yes, the core basic fundamentals.
What's a good gank, what's a bad gank.
Got to get it down pat. What about your solo queue, Nathan?
I'm having a blast, having lots of fun. Ever since that Udia thing that derailed my entire season, back on track. Loving it, dude. Playing some great league. My goal is, I just have 2 simple goals in the game. I need to collect as much information as possible. Mechanics is something I think I still and definitely can get exposed in terms of my skirmishing, but I'm playing out my early games so well recently where I don't have to get exposed for my mechanics at the moment.
Is this on your main or which account is this on?
So my process at the moment is I play 2 or 3 games on my Nathan Mod account, which is like sitting at Grandmaster at the moment. And then my quote unquote, my Smurf, which is actually technically my main, the rank 20 account, 24, 800 LP. I play 1 game a day on that because I've been I want to get my Nathan Mod account to Challenger.
What LP is that one on?
That's 400 currently.
400.
And my other runs, Nathan Mott 2 is on 820 something.
And so are you still playing Jarvan?
Yep. I love Jarvan, dude. It's so good. I love it.
Okay.
I'm having lots of fun.
I very rarely see good Jarvan, so
yeah.
I'm intrigued to see this Jarvan at work.
A couple of Jarvans. Yep. I added Jarvan. I want to play more Elise. I'm thinking of maybe going back to Elise in the off season and just really drilling that down, because that'll be one of my weakest champs in my pool. Just playing, just focus on decision making, just good jungle fundamentals. I'm just keeping it goddamn basic.
You're just keeping it simple
and having a blast. I'm just loving it.
Just working on execution, essentially.
Execution. I definitely have. I'm very confident. Nothing takes me by surprise in the game anymore. I understand everything that play, and even if I do stuff up, very clear to me in the review. You know,
Love it.
And I think it's just a testament to just chipping away and reviewing so many games and, you know, studying the game for 3-4 years. And in the last 3 years, like, I'm very confident in myself as a player at the moment.
Now just got to get those games in, those reps in.
Get the games in, and yeah.
Last thing I will say is I think the missing piece of the puzzle for this entire thing for me, and the key to the free flow and the intuitive gameplay, is that it's either going to come from one of two places. It's going to come from sheer delusion, right? So people who are deluded about how good they are or how good they think they are, and they have like this kind of narrative in their head about the how good they are comparatively to other people, and that allows them to perform to a very high standard. So it comes from but it's not like in reality. It's kind of like a self narrative or a delusion of who they think they are. It's kind of like not an ego. It's like what do they call them? Like a second part of you, like a alter ego in a way. Yeah, it's kind of like an alter ego, or it's out of pure self-love and appreciation and respect for you and presence, and not really care about what other people think of you. Your free flow state, in my opinion, can only come from one of those two places. But it's still confidence. Confidence is in both of them. Confidence that either you don't care about what anyone thinks of you, and you're happy with who you are as a person.
Yeah. You're happy with the way you are. You know that you have lots to learn.
Yes.
But you're confident in the process of the long term that you will eventually get there.
Yes. But you're not shitting on yourself or anything like that. It's like, I am what I am.
This is my level of play.
This is my level of play. And
I suck at some things, but I know that I'm going to get better at it.
But really accepting that this is where you're at.
Yes,
like that's easier said than done.
Very difficult.
Just to do. Really accepting it. And I think that's what I'm getting really bloody close to. That's why I'm able to perform. I've accepted that I'm not the player that I thought I was.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. That's what's allowed me to play free flow.
Yep.
I don't give a shit what I do and don't do in that game. I don't give a shit what anyone thinks of me. I'm just going in and having a blast, and I don't give a flying fuck if someone hates on me, loves me. It doesn't matter to me, because it's me, and I want to exit that game knowing that I expressed Curtis on the Rift.
Yep.
Or it can come from, what it has come from the past, or what I know a lot of players it comes from is, I gotta upkeep. I'm gonna shit on all these people. I'm so much better than all these people.
These people suck.
I'm above them, so I'm automatically gonna play better than them anyway. And that's where that confidence comes from. That allows them to just kind of get into this like kind of intuitive level. You know, they feel like they can smurf on people anyway, so it doesn't even matter. It's like borderline delusion, which allows them to perform in that game out of just sheer delusion. So which isn't sustainable. It will catch up to you at some point, at one point or the other.
Yeah.
It may not in the short term, but it will at one point.
All that stuff is so cloudy. In terms of adapting to the chaos of solo queue, that all like blocks out adapting to the chaos of solo queue.
It does. It makes it harder.
It makes it.
And that's
so
why you
hard.
get people are very emotional, angry when they're in those type of people as well.
Because imagine. So let's say adapting to the chaos of solo queue, right? Let's say you're versus someone that you think that you're better than, right? But they just have your opponent has a very easy game. Their junglers have some winning lanes and stuff, and then you start trying to force things and stuff like that.
I got to beat them. I got to look better than them.
Rather than going back to your victor thing, like I can't do anything for 10 minutes. Accept and embracing the chaotic nature of that solo queue game. That they're never going to get to that point because their ego's in the way.
That's right. Yeah, and this is something that I'm really trying to find out more about, and the whole fun. This is where I think fun really ties into it, and it's a lot. And I think that's what we're going to learn in the next book for the book club, the Effortless Mastery. I think there's some missing pieces that I'm hoping that book fills the missing pieces.
Yeah,
fingers crossed.
Yeah, I mean, I think that maybe on our future podcast we can talk about the seriousness of improving, but also having fun with it.
Yes,
Because
it's not
we are
either
serious.
or. It's both.
Yeah.
which is what Charles Think tried to producer. He spoke about. Was it called? What's the term? Double think. Right. It's both. It's I am intense and care about my improvement in the long run, and I know that there's a lot of work to do.
And I need to be critical and hard on myself.
And I need to be critical hard of myself. And I am okay with where I'm at as a person. I am detached from my level of play, and I respect myself and I have compassion for myself, and I know that I'm going to make mistakes.
That's where we want to get to.
It's all of them together. There's not either or. It's some weird gray area in between. But we got to our goal in the BBC, what we got to try and do is we got to package this up into this beautiful like document. It's like 3 sentences. Boom, boom, boom. You got to do these 3 things.
This is your mindset, your approach to the game.
That's if you can embrace these 3 things and truly live by them, you will have the most success in solo queue and get the most fun out of it, have the most contentment, most satisfaction, most results. That's our goal, Nathan.
Chipping away. It might take us another 10 years, but we're going to get there.
Bit by bit.
Bit by bit. All right, jumping into mailbag time. Yep. Away we go. Welcome back for Nathan's mailbag. Jingle, jingle, jingle song. All right, first question here. And if you want to write into mailbag, send us an email, brokenbyconceptshow@gmail.com. It's in the description. Send us your problems and we'll break down your problems. The problem we're going to solve on this email is addicted to duo. Hi coaches, Nathan and Curtis. I'm Gina and I emailed today with a bit of a problem. I've become addicted to duo queue and don't really have the motivation to queue solo ranked anymore. This is a problem for me because I want to improve and I know I'm not doing it when I'm relying on a support or ADC that I'm on comms with. Another problem is that I'm playing 2 different roles despite being just an ADC main because I'm picking the lane partner of whoever I'm duoing with because I'll duo with whatever friend is available. This has led to my champion mastery being messed up too because I'm far more confident with Senna than Caitlyn Kaiser or Miss Fortune despite being an ADC main because I've played more support lately due to it being what I'm more likely to find someone to duo with in my group. The bigger problem is that when I go to queue ranked ADC solo, I just don't. I'm too afraid of doing it because I get flamed by my support, and even when I have chat muted and I can imagine the support that I don't know judging me. So the few solo queue games I do get me messing around on my mid lane Smurf playing Cassiopeia and Tristana mid, more than anything that's going to help me actually improve as an ADC just because I don't feel as judged in the solo lane. Which further compounds the champion mastery issue I'm having. So what I want to ask is this an issue you've heard of before? Is there a way out of it? I want to start actually getting better at the game. If it's too late for this season, then next season for sure.
Yeah, I would say it's quite common. Especially, I would say it reminds me a lot of the ranked anxiety issues that we've heard a lot about. You know, it's a very similar thing, isn't it? Just raw ranked anxiety.
There's a lot in this email of getting just scared of being judged.
Yeah.
A lot of people's opinions are dictating your actions, which is not good.
What's that quote, Nathan? Where it's something like, if you don't make your decisions, someone else is going to make them for you.
Yep, something like that.
You know,
and they're making you're the imaginary support. That person is not letting you queue up. You know, it's just not logical. It's really not. You got to just have a crack and fail, Gina.
I think that's the one. I think the biggest thing is what you said, Nathan. That Gina has to learn to lose.
Yes, absolutely.
Gina hasn't learned to lose,
yep.
And we all got to go through it. You're gonna lose. Losing is part of the league experience. There is no way around it. You're going to queue up. You're going to have a miserable game.
You will get judged.
And then life goes on.
Yep.
And there'll be another game. You're not going to play with the same people. There'll be another game. Different people, different circumstances, right? And the more situations you can put yourself in, the more times you can complete that learning cycle, the easier it's going to get over time. It's going to be very difficult at the start. Don't get,
because it's not a habit. The habit.
Exactly.
The way that I view duo, it's like a drug. You're like addicted to the drug. and you're reliant on it.
I would say it's less so a drug. I would say it's more so it's like an extra layer of safety. It's like comfortable.
Okay, I remember.
It's kind of like it's like insurance. It's an insurance. It's like a protection from the outside
I'm
world.
losing with someone else. I'm losing together. I'm being protected. I'm shielded.
You're protected. Is someone else
You're
there
not
with you?
naked in solo queue by yourself.
That's right. That's right. You're not there exposed. You're not as vulnerable. But when you're by yourself, you're in a way, I guess, vulnerable, right? Because there is no one else to scapegoat. There's no one else to protect you. There's no one else to... Because when you're dueling with someone and someone says something, you guys can be like, oh yeah, that guy's an idiot. Yeah. And you kind of have someone on your team and by your side. But when you're by yourself, it's just you.
There's like the next state, because the way that I view would be duoing now, I feel less free when I'll be duoing. It's the opposite.
Me too.
I feel...
I feel very restricted when I duo.
Yep.
Very restricted.
I mean, we haven't duo for years, but when we did used to duo, it was terrible, dude. We made each other worse.
Even when you play a game with someone you know and you go on comms, it's shocking.
It's shocking, yeah.
It's shocking. And by the way, I'm making a video on League of Legends for beginners because it's just like a passion thing. I'm really passionate about helping like people who are starting League for the first time. And at the very end of the guide, I have a section where it's like bad pieces of advice. And one of the bad pieces of advice is you should always duo because it helps with, you get one less troll. You know, that's like one advice people give all the time. Like you should duo, it makes climbing easier, right? But okay, yes, in the short term, it might be a little bit easier, but it does long-term damage. It's kind of like an example of duoing is kind of like, when you take a drug to help you overcome an illness, but then you become dependent on the drug. It's like that.
Yep.
Right? It's like you're holding someone's hand to help you through the ranked journey, but in the process of doing so, you've now become hooked on this duoing thing, and this is all you know, and then this has now caused more harm than it's done good. So what you need to do now is pull yourself off of it, and there's going to be withdrawal symptoms.
And the withdrawal symptoms. And let's say the withdrawal symptoms, I don't know what rank Gina's in, but let's say they go from gold 1 to silver 2 or something like that. That's going to be.
It could go to gold 4 or something. Yeah.
Yep. You got to be happy. That's the reality.
And this is where I'm constantly pushing this, hoodoo voodoo bullshit about like the whole self-love and appreciation. It's very important because it's you versus yourself. It's not even you versus yourself. It's just you. And you got to really learn to accept where you're at and strip away where you think you are. That's actually really what the crux of the problem is. I think if you really dig deep and kind of get rid of all the bullshit on the top and scrape through and get to the bottom of it would be that Gina, I don't know if it's a guy. Is it a guy or a girl?
No idea.
Gina here, let's assume it's a girl. She's worried of finding out how maybe she's not the player she thinks she is. Maybe she's not that gold 1 player. She's worried of finding out that maybe like subconsciously that she is maybe that gold 4.
Yes.
It's ego protection, really.
Yeah.
It's actually probably got nothing to do with scared of getting judged by other people. Well, you're only scared of getting judged if you care about what they think of you, and you only care about what other people think of you because you're trying to put on it's like a facade or it's like an image that you're trying to like push. That's what it is. You know, at the end of the day, if you're completely content with the rank that you're at and the level of play that you're at right now, you couldn't care less about what other people say about your play because I'm like, yep, this is where I am. I am this player, and I did make this mistake, and I'm going to improve at it. That's where it ends. It stops at it's like I made the mistake. Here are the learnings. That's where it ends, and you execute, move on, new day, new game. So at the end of the day, you got to be a little bit more vulnerable, but the vulnerability it feels better.
Yep. That's how you gain strength, and you're self-dependent.
That's correct. Yeah. So you got to rip off the Band-Aid, and I would actually recommend like going cold turkey in a way, like never duo again type thing. Like go full off of it. Don't even do it a single time. Stick to like a schedule and be like, I'm going to do 3 solo queue games every day, whatever it is. Stick to it no matter what, no matter how painful, and just be honest with yourself where you're at. And you'll find over time, in the course of 2 to 3 weeks, you won't look back. It will be the best decision you've ever made. You'll feel like a better player. And I guarantee you'll be better than all those other people that you're currently duoing with. They'll look at you in 6 months' time and be like, holy shit, Gina's a different player now. we can't even duel with her anymore. She's too high or something, you know? That's what will happen.
That can be her visualization. That's
Yes.
the goal. Visualize being that, that player.
That's right. I really like that, by the way. It's powerful. It's a powerful tool to think about the behaviors that you want to exhibit. I like doing that. Like, what behaviors do you want to exhibit? Like, what do you think that feels like? And then just like visualize that. It's really powerful.
All right, next question here is from John. The title of this email is Pushing Advantages and Understanding Win Conditions. Hey, Curtis and Nathan, I'm John Peter from Brazil, and I love your podcast. I've already contacted Curtis through email to say how grateful I am for the teaching that both of you share in the podcast. It inspired me so much. Thank you. I have 2 questions that I couldn't find the answers to. Number 1, how can I push advantages in mid to late game? In one game I was playing Trundle, went 6-1-0 and was carrying the game, but the moment I started to split push, the enemy Tristana with Yuumi started to kill my mid and bot lane every single time. After a few minutes, Tristana had taken 2 towers, was 2 levels ahead, I couldn't fight her, and all the advantages that I built was thrown in 5 to 7 minutes. This is happening too often. I play the early game really good, but mid to late game becomes hell if I don't babysit my lanes. They usually will go to team fights and give the enemy team bounties and a lot of gold even when I'm pinging them not to go to that fight. All right, so I'm going to assume he's a jungler. All right, Mr. John Peter. When you pose questions like this, it's just so hard I can't give you responses unless I see the game specifically. I can give you some general mid-game tips, play if your lane is resets, track the enemy jungler, babysitting. When people say babysitting lanes, it sounds like it's a negative for them. If I'm there, I know my lane's going to get ganked, I triple kill, I get a tower, I get an objective, we're winning the game. So, you got to get specific. It's about understanding. I don't know what rank you are, John Peter.
Nathan, I think you got to bring this back to more. Just his mindset's wrong.
Yeah, the mindset's wrong.
He's viewing helping his team as a chore.
Yeah, I know. As a jungler,
it's like
it's your job.
My team should never get caught, and they should only play perfectly, and they should know exactly what I want. And everyone should play like SKT in the Game 5 of World Championships. And if they don't do that, I'm angry, and it's just ridiculous, man. Come on. League is a game of adaptation. There's a shit ton of chaos. So if you know it's going to happen, right? And we can know it's going to happen based off either tendencies of the players or the amount of engage the enemy team has, what you've seen thus far in the game, then what are you going to do? You can either watch them die and complain after and write this email, or you can be like, okay,
what did I miss?
How could I have made their life easier? What could I have done to make the game as easy as possible for my team to win? Do I have to hover them a little bit?
I mean, some things there is thinking about who's my strongest member of my team. That structures it. So you don't have to babysit everyone. Just babysit, quote unquote, babysit that one person. But, you're winning the game through, you're creating pressure through that person, drag the enemy there. And we got to get specific.
You got to get specific.
You got to review games.
Just the mindset should be, every one of those situations is a problem with a solution. And the solution may involve you hovering. The solution may involve you having to sacrifice camps to be there for that fight. It might have to mean you have to get off that dragon to be for that other fight in mid lane. You might have to wait for your team to come off a reset. You might have to halt whatever it is that you're doing in that point in time to make sure you're with the team. And that's what so view it through a lens of, I'm trying to problem solve, and you will have to make sacrifices. Everyone has to make sacrifices in League for the greater good. That's the way you got to view it, man.
Yep. And if you want to get specific, John, join Soul 2.
That's right. That'll make your problems much easier if you can.
I mean, it's just you're gonna, if you don't want to take it to the next level, it's just impossible to answer specific questions like this without, we give general tips as much as possible, but we got to chip away at a lot of stuff in mid game. Number 2, I'm a Warwick main with Mastery 7 on the champion, but I feel he is not good anymore. Last season, I could easily reach Silver 1. Okay, so it sounds like he might be below Silver here.
Okay.
only playing him, but right now the most common scenario is that he'll be kited or CC'd to death before I can do anything. Even Blade of the Ruin King at the Sunfire, that his strongest build, is not working anymore. Nathan said Warwick creates bad habits. I wish he could be more specific in that statement. Again, that sentence is just so generalized. Where's the jungle fundamentals there? Approaching the fights, what champions you're playing against. I think, again, he's focusing on the wrong things, not respecting the basics of the game. I have plenty of Warwick players in Salter that are, I've won approaching Diamond. Yeah, it's not the champion's problem, okay? When I say Warwick creates bad habits, I would say Warwick is it's like you review the game in one lens. You know how you talk about, how we're talking about simple champions,
Yeah.
and then more advanced champions. That's where, when I think about champions that create bad habits, one view, it's like Warwick is like, you can't really do Raptors. You just got a 3 camping gank. And if you don't do that, the game becomes a little bit more tricky. You're not really versatile. It's fine. It's a good starter jungler, but we know how we say it's like, maybe you should try a bit of an advanced champion. And then now this is just a champion that he can pick up here and there in his pool.
You could start with Warwick and then build some basic fundamentals and then kind of move to another champion later on. Like, it's kind of like Annie in mid. You don't want to do your whole
That's right.
journey with Warwick. You just want to get to gold or whatever, get to plat, whatever it is you want to get, and then move on.
Get a feel for the game, the buttons. We'll know what people do, champions do. So that's what I mean when I say the champion creates bad habits. It's just very one-dimensional and the one-dimensional way of viewing and playing the game. He says, I've only got a few months left to reach my goal. I want to know if I should switch my champion pool. I was thinking of replacing Warwick with Rek'Sai, but I don't know if I have time to learn the champion. Rek'Sai would be a good pick because I would not need to learn a new champion when I climb because he doesn't do good in high elo like Warwick. I know Curtis dropped Echo a few seasons ago because he didn't like the champion or didn't think it was good enough. I'm feeling that right now with Warwick. Okay.
Well, one thing we would remember is that champion pools don't matter as much in lower elo brackets. Like when we were talking about getting silver to gold, it's more about just ease of execution. That's the main thing you want to care about. You don't really want to care about meta at all.
No.
Champs' effectiveness in elos matter Master Plus a lot. That's where because everyone's playing to the limits of the champions. So in silver, don't really worry. As long as you love the champ, you enjoy the champ, and it's a simple champion, that's all that matters, right? I don't think you should change.
No.
Especially if you want to reach gold by the end of the season. You should definitely stick to it.
Just stick if you want to reach gold.
If you really want to get gold by the end of the season, you should just join Sol 2. He needs to join Sol 2, man. Joining Sol 2 just for even 2 months. Boom. Join Sol 2. You'll learn so much.
Yep. If you want to email me, John will, I think he's silver, so he won't be able to attend review sessions, but he can just watch some VODs and stuff like that. But we'll see. We can work it out. You can send me an email.
Okay.
But yeah, I think definitely
there's just too much in specific stuff. We can't help you can't help without getting into the details there.
No. And again, I think the way he views the game, it needs to be we need to break it down.
He needs to go back to jungle fundamentals.
Back to base. It's got nothing to do with champions. We're playing legal. We're just learning legal edges.
That's right. You're learning jungle.
All right. That's it for this episode, everyone. Good work. Let's keep on improving, and we'll see you guys next week.